What's going on, guys? Welcome to your second stimulus check update, stimulus package update, and election update for Thursday, November 5th. Today, we will be discussing the major implications that a Biden presidency and a Republican Senate will have on stimulus negotiations. We will also go over the record highs for COVID cases that we saw yesterday, and I will also be addressing how we are headed towards a highly contested election, which won't help stimulus negotiations moving forward. So, let's first address the election news. Right now, today is a big day for the 2020 election. You're probably wondering why. It's actually very simple. Today at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Nevada is going to release their latest polling numbers. This is huge. Nevada has been stuck for the past over 24 hours. And so we have not seen any growth. We have not seen any new numbers. And right now, it is being said that Joe Biden is 6 votes away from becoming the next president of the United States. However, this is if Joe Biden does see a commanding lead in these polls that come out later on today from Nevada, then expect Joe Biden as the president of the United States for the next 4 years. However, if President Trump sees a commanding lead, which this could happen as well, there are two different scenarios right here, then we will most likely have to turn to Georgia, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina as who is going to be the next president of the United States. Will it be President Trump or will it be Joe Biden? You still need to remember that if Joe Biden wins, then the Trump campaign is already asking for recounts in states where we have less than a 1% difference. So this is going to happen. We will see more voting recounts. We usually see this quite a bit in elections, and we will most likely see it again in at least one, but most likely multiple states here for this election. In addition to that, the Trump campaign is already suing Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia. However, these legal challenges that the Trump administration is pushing forward with, it's simply asking for or demanding for better access for campaign observers to see where ballots are being processed and counted. Now, this could ultimately help. This could potentially work to prevent fraud, is what the Trump administration is calling it. However, this could also backfire completely and create an even more controversial election than it currently is. So, it could either go very well and things could go very smoothly, or it could go completely and horribly wrong. Right now, we do not know what is going to happen with these lawsuits, but as we know more, I promise I will share more. Based on reports, if Republicans lose the Senate, then there could be a contested election within the Senate races as well. This would be bad. The United States is already headed towards a very rocky end of 2020 with contested elections, with a pandemic, with no stimulus, with us heading towards a couple or actually multiple fiscal cliffs. It's going to be a rocky end of 2020, as if 2020 has not been bad enough. Reports indicate that if this happens and we see Republicans start to contest the Senate races, again, this would only happen if the Republicans lose the Senate, which would mean Democrats were to gain those 4 seats. They've already picked up 1, but it's highly unlikely they pick up an additional 3. But we will see what happens. But this report is indicating that Republicans might contest the Senate race, and this would drag out. This would drag out for a while because this would drag out other states. It would be different states, not just the ones that are currently being contested or currently being questioned by the Trump administration or the Trump campaign. So this would prolong the time between right now and the time that we see stimulus negotiations actually start. Nancy Pelosi said she would have started negotiations today. She would have started as soon as humanly possible, but we need to know who is going to be in control of the Senate and who will the next president of the United States actually be. Mitch McConnell stated that the Senate will take up stimulus negotiations and start dealing with the stimulus issue as soon as they get back to Capitol Hill, and that's in like 4 days. So that's really good right there. Experts are putting the majority in the Senate with Republicans at this point. There is a chance, there is a chance things could still swing towards Democrats. However, it's highly unlikely at this point. It's still a possibility, but it's highly unlikely. And what you need to remember is if Republicans remain in control of the Senate, then Nancy Pelosi simply lost a lot of the leverage that she once had, because now she will have to deal with Mitch McConnell. It will not be a question of who is going to be running the Senate. We will know it will be Mitch McConnell if the Senate is still ran by Republicans. Also, if this happens, Nancy Pelosi will most likely need to agree to a scaled down, more targeted stimulus package in order to get it through the Republican majority Senate. This is not good news for Nancy Pelosi. This would not be great news for Joe Biden. However, it would be somewhat positive news for you and I, because this means that the Senate is going to look at targeted situations where they can actually make an impact. For example, unemployment would make an impact. Another example, rental assistance would make an impact. Liability protections for businesses would make a dramatic impact. PPP funding for the struggling small businesses would make an immediate impact. And second stimulus checks to the American people would dramatically help out the American people and would make an immediate impact. Now, a lot of people have been extremely pessimistic that stimulus will be seen before the end of 2020. I am more optimistic now than ever before. Many people are saying that it is more likely to happen now than it was before. It's more likely to happen now than it is to happen in 2021. This is all good news because this means we could see stimulus sooner rather than later. I know a lot of people don't want to wait. I don't want to wait. I don't want to see the economy keep struggling. We need stimulus and we need it now. And Congress needs to step up and do their job. Later on today, we will see the unemployment numbers from last week. We will see that later on today and tomorrow. And this isn't just the best news for today, but tomorrow is another important day. Tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the October jobs report is going to be released. And this coming out couldn't have came out at a better time. And I say this because there's two options. There's two scenarios right here. If the jobs report looks dim and there's not a lot of positive signs from it, then expect Mitch McConnell and the Senate to agree on something a little bit larger than they would normally have agreed upon. Now, what many people are saying is that Mitch McConnell and the Senate would most likely agree to about a $1.5 to $1.8 trillion stimulus package. That's as of right now. And they're saying this because there are reports that indicate that the Senate had to be on the defensive side and they couldn't support a large stimulus package because their voters would not have appreciated them taking a more democratic approach. So because of that, they too were playing political games because they couldn't come out and just say, yeah, we support this. They had to say, no, we can't support this. It's too high, because at that point, we were still in the election process. We were still in the, trying to campaign. And so they didn't want to put that out there saying that, oh yeah, we'll take the democratic approach, when their voters would probably not have voted for them if that was the case. Now, if the jobs report comes in strong, and a lot of people are predicting it's going to come in strong. President Trump predicts it's going to come in strong, that we're going to see the best fourth quarter we've ever seen. If this happens, then expect Mitch McConnell will most likely hold his ground and try to get more smaller, targeted stimulus to the American people and to the economy as a whole. A smaller stimulus package is not necessarily the best news and the news that we want to hear. However, you need to remember that when Mitch McConnell proposes this, or we see this come out, that it still has to pass through the House. Nancy Pelosi has to okay this, and whoever the president is would still have to okay this. So that simply means Mitch McConnell doesn't have all the power. The power, again, will not just be in one person's hands. It will be spread out. But what people are saying right now is that Nancy Pelosi would potentially agree to a smaller stimulus package because she doesn't want to leave Joe Biden, if he were to win, with these issues leading into 2021. Also, these are not the only important dates. Today, tomorrow, they are not the only important dates. There are a couple important dates you need to be well aware of because we have a couple fiscal cliffs coming up, and they will come up in a hurry. First, we have December 11th. December 11th is when the government budget is expiring, the continuing resolution. That is the last day of it. So, on December 11th, Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and Congress need to come to some type of agreement to fund the government for the next fiscal year. And on December 31st, we have three very important things. We have the unemployment for self-employed and gig workers. That expires on December 31st. We also have the eviction moratorium from the CDC. That expires on December 31st as well. And we also have student loan deferrals that expire on December 31st as well. Those three things are major. The major two are the unemployment for self-employed and gig workers, and the second one is the eviction moratorium from the CDC. That will expire. So unless these things get extended, which we're hoping they do in the next stimulus package, then that's great. If they don't, then we could be in a world of hurt. We could see a lot of people pretty much lose the only income that they have at this point, and we could see a massive wave of evictions and potentially, possibly, foreclosures as well. Some experts are saying that the only way to guarantee a stimulus package at this point is to tie the stimulus package with the government budget and negotiate them together. Now, some people tried this the last time and it failed miserably. It did not work, and ultimately they passed the continuing resolution, and that was negotiated with Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin, and that will most likely be who is negotiating this as well, but we will see. Again, this is going to be there could potentially be a lame duck session. We don't know. One report that I read late last night, I thought this was interesting. This report that I read late last night is stating that a person with knowledge of Nancy Pelosi's thinking is saying that Nancy Pelosi would be open to a smaller, more targeted stimulus package, but only if that package truly addressed the needs of the American people. Also, if Joe Biden wins, Nancy Pelosi doesn't want him to inherit the problems and the issues with the economy and the pandemic. So, she would be open to a more targeted or very targeted stimulus approach. And then if they have to come back later on, come back to the table and negotiate new terms. So we might not just see, this might not be the last stimulus package we see. We might see an additional stimulus package coming up before the end of the year. We might see a new stimulus package address different issues that arise in 2021. And we could potentially see stimulus packages come through Congress multiple times until this pandemic is truly over. And that is what Nancy Pelosi is simply saying, is that we have the possibility to come back later on and request more funding for whatever we need at that time. But as of right now, let's just get the American people the relief that they need. Let's put money in the pockets of the American people through unemployment and through a stimulus check. Let's put money into the pockets of businesses so they can hire back all those people that they have furloughed and fired and let go. And let's also give money to the states that are currently struggling. Let's do all those things. And then if we need to, come back and we will request more money later on. Again, I know this is not the best news, but it is good news that Nancy Pelosi has, changed her thinking based on this report and is open to a smaller stimulus package. Because I guarantee you, that's what Mitch McConnell is looking at. He wants a more targeted stimulus package that is at a smaller scale. So we will see what happens. This report is also indicating by smaller and more targeted, it would most likely be in the $1.5 to $1.8 trillion range. So about $300 billion difference, but it wouldn't exceed $2 trillion because Mitch McConnell would still need to get the support of the GOP. And in most cases, $2 trillion would just be too expensive. Now, $1.8 trillion is only $200 billion away. However, that $200 billion, I guess, just exceeds what the GOP is willing to support. But again, that's just what we know right now, but things can change. Based on what we know tomorrow, once we get the October jobs report, once we see that, it could completely change the stimulus talks. And depending on who wins the election, that could completely change the stimulus talks as well. And if the Senate were to somehow not be controlled by Republicans and it goes Democrat, that completely changes things as well. So just because this is the news now doesn't mean it will be the news later on today, tomorrow, or even next week. Now, in COVID news, the United States saw a record-breaking 104,000 new COVID cases yesterday alone. This is the single-day record to date here in the United States. This is exactly what experts were warning us about and are telling us, that even though this number is high and most of the United States has their eye on the presidential election, there's even bigger news that many people have not heard of, that many people are not privy to. This information, this is exactly what this report is saying, that 18 states are reported or have reported record numbers of patients hospitalized due to COVID. These states include Kansas, Tennessee, Virginia, Oklahoma, Montana, Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, Ohio, Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana, Wisconsin, and West Virginia. So, everybody in those states, please stay safe. Currently, the United States is doing very little to flatten the curve, and experts are warning Americans that ignoring the problem will only make it worse very soon. It is not going away. So, that's the information I have right now. But as always, as I know more, I promise I will share more. Just want to thank you guys for watching today's video. Can you do me a favor if you enjoyed today's video and you appreciate the time I take to spend hours and hours doing this research so that you don't have to? Can you do me a favor? Give this video a like, subscribe if you want to stay updated, and I'll see you guys on the next one.